I was dying, then the alien vampire woman gave me her blood, and now I can't die. Elia's ward had never felt fear like this before. The cold mist of Violia clung to his skin as he crawled over jagged rocks, each breath burning his lungs. The alien planet stretched endlessly, its twisted trees like skeletal fingers reaching into the gray sky. Elias had landed here with his crew just days ago, eager to explore, to chart the unknown. But now he wished he had never left the safety of the spacecraft. A low growl echoed behind him. Elias turned his head slowly, heart hammering, and froze. From the mist emerged a predator unlike anything he had ever seen, a massive creature with glimmering scales and eyes that shone like molten gold. Its long limbs moved with impossible speed, and its claws scratched against the stone as it advanced. Elias tried to run, but the uneven ground betrayed him. His ankle twisted and he fell, pain shooting up his leg. The creature lunged, its jaws snapping shut inches from his face. He scrambled backward, but his strength was fading. The realization hit him like a thunderbolt. He was going to die here alone on a world no human had conquered. Then a voice cut through the chaos, a voice smooth and calm, unlike anything in nature. "Stop!" Elia's eyes widened as a figure stepped out from the mist. She was tall and slender, with skin that shimmered faintly in the dim light. Her eyes glowed a soft silver, and her long hair floated around her shoulders as if it had a life of its own. The predator froze mid-step and hissed, then slinked back, sensing something it could not challenge. "You should not be here," she said, her voice melodic yet firm. Elias struggled to speak, every word catching in his throat. Who are you?" he managed. "I am Lysera," she replied. "I have been watching you. You are not like the others who come to this world." Elias tried to rise, but his body refused. Pain coursed through him and his vision blurred. Lysera moved closer, her presence calm and commanding. Without a word, she knelt beside him. Elias could feel her energy, something alien yet familiar, wrapping around him like a warm light. "You are dying," she said softly, almost like a statement of fact rather than judgment. Elias' chest tightened. "I can help you," she continued. "But it comes with a choice. One sip and your body will change. You will survive, but nothing will be as it was." Elias swallowed, fear and hope warring inside him. Every instinct told him to run, to refuse, but the pain was unbearable and the edges of consciousness were fraying. I have no choice," he whispered. Lysera nodded, her silver eyes reflecting a strange wisdom. She opened her hand and a small vial appeared, glowing faintly. The liquid inside shimmered like liquid moonlight. "Drink," she said, "and you will not die." Hesitation flared in Elia's chest. Immortality sounded like a blessing, but he had read the stories of humans who tampered with alien forces. Still, the alternative was death. He tipped the vial to his lips and drank. The moment the liquid touched his tongue, fire seemed to race through his veins. Pain and heat, light and shadow all collided within him. He gasped, falling back against the rock. His body convulsed and he screamed, but it was not agony, it was transformation. Minutes later, the storm inside him calmed. He opened his eyes and looked at his hands. The cuts, the bruises, the broken bones, they were gone. His breathing was steady. He flexed his fingers, amazed. Not only was he alive, he felt stronger, faster, more alert than ever before. Lysera watched silently, her expression unreadable. "You are changed," she said finally. "Your body heals itself now. Any injury, any wound will mend. You will not die unless the universe itself wishes it." Elias tried to speak, but words failed him. He felt a surge of power, an energy that seemed to hum in every nerve. I can't die," he whispered, awe-threading through his voice. "You can survive anything, but that is not the same as being invincible," Lysera warned. "There are dangers even I cannot protect you from. And with this gift, you will face enemies who would rather destroy you than understand you." Elias nodded slowly. The implications were enormous. Immortality was not just a blessing, it was a responsibility. He looked at Lysera. "Why me?" he asked. "Because you are human," she said simply. "You are clever, adaptable, unpredictable. Many beings in this galaxy rely on strength or technology. Humans, you rely on ingenuity. That is rare. That is valuable. That is why I offered this to you." For a moment, Elias felt pride. He had always thought of humans as fragile, ordinary, easy to replace. But here, on this alien world, in the shadow of a predator and a being older than he could imagine, he realized that humanity's greatest weapon was not their technology, not even their courage. It was their creativity. their ability to think in ways that others could not. But there was no time to dwell on philosophy. A sudden alarm from the ship reached his neural implant. The crew's signal was frantic. They were under attack. The predators of Violia and perhaps other dangers were closing in. He had survived the first test, but the real challenge had only just begun. Lysera extended her hand, helping him to his feet. "Come, we must leave. There are others who will want to capture you now once they know what you are." The journey back to the spacecraft was harrowing. Ilias moved with agility and strength he had never known. Fallen trees, jagged rocks, even ambushing predators, all were obstacles he now overcame with ease. Lysera moved beside him effortlessly, guiding him through the fog and the shadowed terrain. When they finally reached the ship, the crew's panic was palpable. Weapons were armed, scanners pinging warnings. "Ilias," shouted Captain Marin, the ship's commander. "What happened to you? You were gone for hours." "I'm fine," Ilias said, though the word felt inadequate. His voice carried an authority he had never had before, the calm of someone who had faced death and returned. "We need to get out of here, now." As the ship lifted off, the fog of Violia swirling below, Ilias looked at Lysera. "What now?" he asked. "Now you learn," she said. "You learn what it means to survive when nothing in the galaxy can truly kill you. You will face enemies who see your gift as a threat. You will face choices that will test not just your strength, but your humanity. And you will discover what it truly means to be human among immortals." Ilias leaned back in his seat, the hum of the engines beneath him. For the first time in his life, he felt limitless, and yet he felt the weight of responsibility pressing on his shoulders. Immortality was not freedom. It was a challenge, a calling, and perhaps a test of everything humans could offer to the stars. Outside the viewport, Violia receded into the distance, shrouded in mist. The galaxy awaited, vast and dangerous, but Ilias felt ready. He was no longer just a man. He was a force shaped by human ingenuity and alien power. He could survive anything, and now he would have to. The first test of his immortality came sooner than he expected. A fleet of unknown ships appeared on the scanners, moving fast, weapons locked. Aliens of immense size and power, intent on capturing the being who could not die. The crew looked to him, uncertainty and fear in their eyes. Ilias felt a surge of determination. "Let them come," he said. "They will learn that humans are never as weak as they think." Lysera's eyes gleamed, a faint smile on her lips. "Good, that is why I chose you." As the enemy ships closed in, Ilias prepared for the battle of his life. But unlike any other human, he knew that this time, death would not claim him. The universe had underestimated humans once again, and he intended to prove it in ways no one could imagine. The adventure had just begun. The alien ships advanced with deadly precision, their metal hulls glinting in the light of distant stars. Ilias Ward stood on the bridge of the spacecraft, eyes sharp, muscles tense. He had faced death once already, but now it was different. This time it was not nature or accident. It was an intelligent, organized enemy, and they wanted him. The crew moved frantically, scanning for weapons, shields, and evasive maneuvers. "They're faster than anything we've encountered," Captain Marin said, gripping the console. "If they catch us, we won't have a chance." Ilias felt the alien blood coursing through him, a steady, powerful rhythm that steadied his nerves. He could feel every vibration, every pressure on the ship as if it were part of him. His mind worked faster than ever before, connecting the dots, predicting the enemy's movement. "No," he said firmly. "They are strong, yes, but they are predictable. Watch closely." He directed the ship into a sudden sharp dive, weaving between the larger alien vessels. Energy beams sliced past them, missing by inches. The crew gasped, amazed at Ilia's precision. He moved as though the ship were an extension of his body, every command executed perfectly. "They can't keep up with this," Lysera said, standing beside him, her silver eyes glowing. "You are learning faster than I imagined." "They rely on technology," Ilias said, voice calm, eyes scanning the readouts. "I rely on creativity." As they maneuvered, Ilias noticed the alien fleet splitting, surrounding them from multiple sides. Their strategy was intelligent, designed to corner and overwhelm. But Ilias had already anticipated it. Using the ship's smaller auxiliary engines, he initiated a series of sudden jumps, each one surprising the enemy. The aliens were strong, but they had underestimated the ingenuity of a human with nothing to lose. A sudden alarm flashed red. One of the smaller ships had fired a net of energy that ensnared the spacecraft's main engines. Sparks flew across the bridge, and alarms screamed. "We're trapped," someone shouted. Ilia's body surged with adrenaline. Pain no longer frightened him, and fear no longer clouded his mind. "Lysera, give me access to the auxiliary controls. I have a plan." She nodded, and he worked quickly, rerouting energy through alternate channels. The ship shuddered, groaning as systems strained under his control. Then, with a sudden roar, the engines reactivated, launching them free of the energy net. The enemy ship surged past, momentarily stunned. The crew stared in awe. "How did you?" Marin began, but Ilias shook his head. "Not how, why. They think they can overpower us with force, but force is not everything. Strategy, speed, unpredictability, that is human strength." The alien fleet regrouped, preparing for a final assault. Their massive flagship loomed ahead, larger and more imposing than anything Ilias had ever seen. Weapons bristled along its hull, ready to annihilate the small human vessel. "This is it," Lysera said, her voice quiet but steady. "They will stop at nothing. Are you ready?" Ilias nodded. "They think I am alone, that they can take me like they take others, but humans, we never fight alone." He turned to the crew, who had been tense and fearful. "Trust me," he said. "Follow my lead. Watch for openings. Move fast. Think faster." The flagship fired a barrage of energy beams. Ilias tilted the ship, weaving through the deadly storm. Sparks and explosions illuminated the dark void of space like fireworks gone wrong. One hit grazed the hull, but his body reacted instantly. Where others would panic, Ilias directed repairs, rerouted power, and stabilized the ship with movements that seemed impossible. Then he saw it, a weak point in the enemy flagship. A small section of the hull glimmered with energy, less protected than the rest. The human mind, Ilias realized, could see patterns and flaws that even the advanced alien intelligence overlooked. "Target the weak spot," he commanded. The crew followed, firing their own weapons with precision. The flagship shuddered under the attack, alarms blaring across its hull. Ilias smiled. "Good, keep going, do not let them recover." The flagship unleashed drones to swarm the human vessel. They were fast, deadly, designed to incapacitate. But Ilias had expected this. Using the ship's agility, he drew the drones into a tight cluster, then released a pulse of energy that disabled them all at once. The crew cheered, though Ilias knew the battle was not yet over. Suddenly, the flagship sent a massive energy wave, a final strike meant to crush them. The ship trembled violently and debris slammed into the hull. The crew was thrown to the floor and alarms blared, but Ilias stood firm. The alien blood in his veins healed minor injuries instantly, kept his mind sharp, and gave him the endurance to withstand the attack. With a decisive move, he piloted the ship into a calculated collision course. Using the momentum of the flagship against itself, he activated the auxiliary thrusters at the last moment. The two ships scraped past each other, the flagship's hull tearing against its own defenses. Explosions rocked the enemy vessel, and it began to retreat, its massive form limping through space. The human ship floated in the aftermath, battered but intact. The crew looked at Ilias in awe, realization dawning on their faces. He had done what seemed impossible. He had survived, and more than that, he had won. Lysera stepped forward, her expression serene. "You have done well. You have proven what I told you, that humans are unpredictable, resourceful, and capable of greatness. Strength alone cannot conquer you. Ingenuity does." Ilias nodded, chest heaving, the weight of exhaustion heavy yet invigorating. "They will return," he said, "and others will come, but we have shown them humans are not weak. We adapt, we survive, we overcome." The crew began repairs, working together efficiently. For the first time, they looked at Ilias not just as a captain, but as a symbol. He was human, yes, but he was also something more. Immortality had changed him, yes, but it was his mind, his courage, and his determination that made him powerful. Days passed as the ship traveled to a safe station. Ilias spent time with Lysera, learning more about the alien blood and what it could do. He discovered he could heal from almost anything, sense danger before it happened, and even interface with technology in ways no ordinary human could. But Lysera reminded him that true power lay not in invincibility, but in the cleverness of the mind, the persistence of spirit, and the courage to make choices when all seemed lost. At the station, the news of Ilias' survival spread quickly. Scientists, explorers, and even rival alien species came to see the human who could not die. Some were fearful, others curious. But all learned the same lesson: never underestimate humanity. Elias looked out at the stars from the station's observation deck. Lysera joined him, her presence calm and reassuring. "You have changed," she said, "not just physically but in ways the galaxy will notice." "I have," Elias replied, "but it is not just me. Humans, we are adaptable, clever, and brave. That is why we survive. That is why we thrive even against impossible odds." Lysera smiled faintly. "You are a bridge now between humans and the wider galaxy. Others will watch, learn, and perhaps even respect your kind." Elias nodded, feeling the weight of his new role. Immortality was no longer a gift or a curse. It was a responsibility. A responsibility to protect, to inspire, and to lead. He would face countless dangers in the future, enemies stronger, faster, and smarter than before. But he was ready. Humanity had always thrived against impossible odds, and now, with his new abilities, he would carry that legacy into the stars. As the twin suns of the station set over the horizon, Elias felt a sense of calm determination. He could not die, but more importantly, he could make a difference. He had seen the limits of the universe, and he had pushed beyond them. And he would continue to push because humans never stop, never give up, and never accept defeat. The galaxy was vast, full of wonders and dangers alike. But Elias Ward, the human who could not die, was ready. With courage, cleverness, and the unyielding spirit of humanity, he would face whatever came next. For the first time, Elias understood something profound. Immortality was not about living forever. It was about proving that even the smallest, seemingly fragile species could leave an indelible mark on the universe. And humans, with their curiosity, resilience, and ingenuity, were already doing that. The stars stretched endlessly before him, a canvas for adventure, challenge, and triumph. Elias smiled, feeling the pulse of life, strength, and possibility within him. He was human, he was immortal, and he was ready to face the future. And somewhere deep in the galaxy, he knew other species would remember that lesson. Never underestimate a human. Elias Ward had survived impossible odds before, but the galaxy had a way of testing limits he had never imagined. Weeks had passed since the battle with the Kryvans, and word of the human who could not die had spread across multiple star systems. Some celebrated him as a hero, others feared him as a weapon. And now he faced a challenge unlike any before, a coalition of alien factions, united by the belief that his existence disrupted the natural order of the universe. The message arrived suddenly, a holographic projection flashing in the command room of the ship. The leader of the coalition, a tall, insected creature with armored plating and piercing eyes, addressed Elias directly. "Human," it said, its voice sharp and metallic. "You have survived beyond reason. You cannot exist. Surrender, or all who stand with you will be destroyed." Elias studied the projection calmly. Fear had long since lost its grip on him. "I will not surrender," he replied evenly. "Humans survive, we adapt, and we protect those who cannot defend themselves." The creature's eyes narrowed. "Then you leave us no choice. We will end you." Lysera stepped beside Elias, her silver eyes glowing faintly. "This is unlike any threat you have faced. They are powerful, intelligent, and coordinated, but remember what I taught you. It is not just power that wins battles. Strategy, creativity, and courage do." Elias nodded. The human mind thrived in uncertainty, and this was uncertainty multiplied. He could feel the weight of responsibility pressing on him, but instead of fear, it sparked determination. "Prepare the ship," he ordered. "We will meet them on our terms, not theirs." The crew worked quickly, rerouting energy, reinforcing shields, and calibrating weapons. Every movement was precise, executed under Elias' guidance. He moved among them like a conductor, orchestrating the defense and attack with unmatched clarity. As the coalition fleet approached, Elias studied their formation. Thousands of ships moving in perfect synchronization, their weapons bristling. To most, it would seem impossible to survive. But Elias saw the gaps, the weaknesses, the predictable patterns. Humans had always been underestimated, and he intended to use that to their advantage. "Divide their formation," he said. "Force them to react to us, not the other way around. Speed, misdirection, and timing will be our weapons." The ship surged forward, dodging energy blasts and weaving between the larger vessels. Sparks and debris flew past as enemy fire narrowly missed them. The crew moved with precision, following Elias' commands as if he were guiding them with his own body. A smaller squadron of enemy ships attempted to flank them from behind. Elias anticipated this move before it happened. Turn starboard, engage the secondary thrusters. The human ship spun, weaving around the attackers and forcing them into a collision course with one another. Explosions lit up space as the enemy ships destroyed each other. Lysera watched in admiration. "You are learning faster than I imagined," she said. "Not just surviving, you are thinking beyond what any human or alien could expect." Elia's mind worked rapidly. Every movement, every calculation, every risk was weighed carefully. He knew that brute force alone would not win this battle. It was intelligence, adaptability, and the unpredictability of human decision-making that would tip the scales. Suddenly, a massive enemy dreadnought emerged from the fleet, its hull glowing with energy weapons charged for a single devastating strike. The smaller ships scattered, leaving Elia's vessel exposed. The crew tensed, fear flickering in their eyes despite Elia's calm demeanor. "Focus on the weak points," he said, pointing at the readouts. "Every massive ship has one, we just need to find it and hit it with everything we have." The crew fired coordinated blasts, guided by Elia's intuition. The dreadnought shuddered under the concentrated fire, but it adapted quickly, redirecting shields and altering trajectory. Elias realized they were not just facing strength, they were facing intelligence. But intelligence had limits, and humans excelled at seeing patterns that others could not. Elias piloted the ship in daring maneuvers, dodging the dreadnought's massive energy beams while directing precise counterattacks. "We can't just hit it head-on," he said. "We have to force it into a trap." Using the terrain of a nearby asteroid field, Elias lured the dreadnought into a narrow passage, where its size became a disadvantage. The massive ship struggled to navigate, its weapons struggling to keep pace. Elias directed the human vessel to weave between asteroids, firing concentrated bursts at the hull, exploiting every flaw he could identify. The dreadnought roared in defiance, its energy shields flickering. The crew cheered as their strategy began to succeed. Elias felt a surge of confidence. The human mind, adaptable and inventive, had turned the tables once again. But just as victory seemed near, the dreadnought released a massive pulse, a wave of energy designed to disable all nearby ships. The human vessel shuddered violently, systems flickering and alarms screamed. For a moment it seemed as if they would be destroyed. Elias closed his eyes, feeling the alien blood coursing through him. Pain and fear no longer held sway. He directed emergency systems with precision, stabilizing the ship and rerouting energy through unconventional channels. The pulse hit, but the ship held. "See," he said, voice steady, "humans never give up, we find a way." The crew rallied, inspired by his courage. Together, they launched a final, coordinated strike at the dreadnought's weak points. Explosions tore through the massive vessel, its shields failing, engines flaring. With one final surge, the human ship delivered a decisive blow, and the dreadnought disintegrated in a blaze of fire and energy. The coalition fleet faltered, shocked by the destruction of their flagship. Elias seized the opportunity, using clever maneuvers to outflank and scatter the remaining ships. Within hours, the once mighty fleet was in retreat, leaving the human vessel victorious. The crew erupted in celebration, cheering and hugging one another. Elias, however, remained focused, eyes scanning the stars for any remaining threats. Lysera placed a hand on his shoulder. "You have done it, not with raw power alone, but with human ingenuity, courage, and determination. This is why I chose you." Elias nodded, exhaustion mingling with triumph. "We survived, we won, but this is only the beginning. There are always more challenges, more threats. Humanity will face them as we always have." In the days that followed, Elias and his crew repaired the ship and tended to the wounded. Word of their victory spread rapidly, earning respect, admiration, and cautious alliances throughout the galaxy. Aliens who had once seen humans as weak and expendable now approached with curiosity and caution, eager to learn from the species that had defied impossible odds. Elias spent time with Lysera, reflecting on the lessons he had learned. Immortality, he realized, was not merely about living forever. It was about responsibility, wisdom, and the courage to act when others would falter. He had been given a gift, but the gift alone did not define him. His choices, his creativity, and his unwavering spirit had shaped his victories. As the ship traveled through the star-strewn void, Elias looked out at the endless expanse. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers, mysteries, and wonders beyond imagination. And somewhere out there, countless beings would challenge him, test him, and perhaps even fear him. But Elias was ready. He was human, and humans never stopped. Lysera stood beside him, her eyes reflecting the distant stars. "You have changed the balance of power in the galaxy," she said softly. "But more importantly, you have shown what humans can do when faced with the impossible." Elias smiled, a quiet determination in his gaze. "We adapt, we survive, we protect, and we never give up. That is what it means to be human." The stars stretched endlessly before him, a canvas of endless possibilities. Each glimmering light represented a challenge, a mystery, or a new adventure. Elias knew that immortality would bring countless battles, moral dilemmas, and trials of every kind. But he also knew that with courage, creativity, and the unyielding spirit of humanity, he could face them all. And somewhere deep in the galaxy, other species would remember the lesson he had taught. Never underestimate humans. They could survive, adapt, and overcome, even when the odds were stacked impossibly high. Elias Ward, the human who could not die, felt the pulse of life and possibility within him. He was ready for whatever the universe could throw at him. The galaxy was vast, dangerous, and beautiful, but he was human, and that alone made him unstoppable. With Lysera at his side and his crew trusting his leadership, Elias prepared for the next adventure. A new star system awaited, unknown worlds brimming with possibilities and perils. The legacy of humanity, its ingenuity, resilience, and courage, would continue to shine among the stars. The galaxy had tested him, and he had passed, but Elias knew that the story was far from over. Humanity had only begun to show what it was capable of. And as long as he lived, as long as he remained human, the universe would never forget the lesson he had taught. Even the smallest species can leave a mark that echoes among the stars forever. Elias Ward looked out at the horizon, a faint smile on his lips. The adventure would continue, and he was ready. For humans, there were no limits, only challenges to overcome, and he intended to meet every one of them head-on. Elias Ward had thought he had seen the limits of danger. He had faced predators on Vyrlia, outwitted the Kryvans, and survived a galaxy-spanning coalition intent on ending him. But the universe had a way of testing him beyond anything he could imagine. Even immortality could not shield him from the unexpected. The warning came as a faint ripple in the sensors, almost imperceptible. The ship shuddered lightly, as if sensing the presence of something massive nearby. Elias stood on the bridge, eyes scanning the data. "Something is approaching," he said. "And it's not any fleet I recognize." Lysera stepped beside him, her expression grave. "I feel it too. This is not just a single threat. It is ancient, powerful, and deliberate. The galaxy itself seems to hold its breath." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Years of space travel had taught them to trust Elias, but the tension in the air was palpable. "What do we do?" Captain Marin asked. Elias closed his eyes for a moment, letting the alien blood within him heighten his senses. "We observe first, then we adapt. Humans survive because we can think, create, and react in ways others cannot. We will need all of that now." The ship moved cautiously toward the source of the disturbance. As they approached, the stars outside the viewport seemed to bend and shimmer unnaturally. A massive structure emerged from the darkness, larger than any space station or natural formation they had seen. It was a colossal fortress, its surface etched with symbols that glowed faintly, pulsating with energy. "By the stars," one crew member whispered. "What is that?" Lysera's eyes narrowed. "An ancient relic, built by a civilization long gone, yet still alive with energy. It senses life, adapts, and reacts. Many have entered it, none have returned." Elias studied the structure. Humans had always thrived in the face of the unknown, and this would be no exception. "We go in," he said, "but carefully. We observe, we record, and we move with caution. This is not just about survival. It's about learning, understanding, and using our minds to navigate what others cannot." The ship docked at the outer perimeter of the fortress. A massive airlock opened, welcoming them into an interior that defied conventional geometry. Corridors twisted in impossible angles, glowing symbols floating in the air. Gravity shifted subtly as they moved, challenging their balance. Elias led the crew cautiously, every step deliberate. "Stay alert," he said. "Observe patterns, predict what might happen next." Humans have always been underestimated because our minds see possibilities others ignore. The crew marveled at the fortress. It was alive in a way they could feel, a presence that seemed to watch and respond to every movement. Doors opened and closed without visible mechanisms, energy fields shimmered and shifted, and faint whispers echoed through the halls. Suddenly, a chamber opened before them, revealing a massive central core. Energy pulsed within it like a heartbeat. Elias approached, sensing a challenge, a puzzle. "This is it," he said. "Whatever controls this place, it tests all who enter. We must think carefully. We cannot rely on strength alone." The energy core reacted to their presence, creating holographic representations of past explorers, replaying their attempts to navigate the fortress. Some succeeded briefly, only to vanish. Others failed instantly, their forms disintegrating into light. The crew watched in awe, but Elias remained calm. "Look closely," he said. "There is a pattern here. The fortress reacts to fear, hesitation, and predictable behavior. We must act with clarity, confidence, and ingenuity." Lysera placed a hand on his shoulder. "And that is why you are human. Your mind adapts in ways others cannot. You are the bridge between survival and understanding." Elias studied the holographic projections. Each explorer had tried direct approaches, brute force, or random movement. None had succeeded. He realized that the fortress responded to creativity, to unexpected solutions, to patterns that defied logic yet made sense in context. "Follow me," he said. "We move differently. Observe the shifts, adjust instantly, and do not let fear control us." The crew followed, their movements guided by Elias' intuition. The fortress reacted, but Elias anticipated each change, turning potential traps into advantages. Energy walls became pathways, floating platforms aligned as he approached, and symbols guided them instead of hindering. The fortress seemed to test his human creativity, responding to ingenuity rather than intimidation. Hours passed, or perhaps days. It was impossible to measure time here. The fortress played tricks on perception, yet Elias remained focused. Finally, they reached the inner sanctum, a massive chamber where a single entity awaited. It was enormous, its form shifting and shimmering with pure energy. It spoke without words, its thoughts echoing in their minds. "Why do you come?" it asked. "What makes you believe you belong here?" Elias stepped forward, voice steady. "Because humans survive, we adapt. We create solutions where others see only danger. We think, we act, and we endure. That is why we belong, not by strength alone, but by ingenuity, courage, and spirit." The entity pulsed, as if considering his words. Then the symbols in the chamber shifted, rearranging into a pathway leading deeper into the sanctum. It was a test, and Elias had passed. Lysera smiled faintly. "You understand what many cannot. This is why I chose to bond with you. Not because you are immortal, but because you are human." The crew moved cautiously along the path, discovering archives of knowledge left by the ancient civilization. They found records of worlds, technologies, and philosophies long lost. Elias realized that the fortress was not just a challenge. It was a library, a test of worthiness, designed to reward those capable of understanding and wisdom. "This is incredible," Marin said. "Think of the knowledge here. We could change the course of entire civilizations." Elias nodded. "And we will, but carefully. Knowledge is a responsibility, not a weapon. We take what we can learn, apply it wisely, and ensure it benefits many, not just ourselves." As they explored further, the fortress responded to their curiosity and creativity. New chambers opened, each presenting unique puzzles that required ingenuity, teamwork, and courage. The crew adapted, learning to move and think in ways the fortress rewarded. It was a perfect test of human adaptability, a species capable of overcoming challenges through intellect, cooperation, and perseverance. Finally, they reached the core of the sanctum, a massive crystalline structure radiating energy. Elias approached, feeling the pulse of the fortress, now calm and accepting. The energy flowed into him, enhancing his senses, his mind, and his understanding of the universe. He realized that immortality was only a tool. The true power lay in human ingenuity, the ability to learn, adapt, and act decisively. Lysera stood beside him, eyes reflecting the crystalline glow. "You have proven what I always knew. Humanity is extraordinary, not because of strength or speed, but because of creativity, courage, and determination. That is why you endure." Elias smiled faintly, feeling a new sense of purpose. Immortality was not a gift to be flaunted. It was a responsibility to lead, protect, and inspire. Humans could survive against impossible odds, not because they were invincible, but because they thought beyond the obvious, adapted to any challenge, and never surrendered. As the ship departed the ancient fortress, the crew carried with them knowledge, confidence, and a renewed sense of purpose. They had faced one of the galaxy's oldest tests and had emerged victorious, not through brute force, but through human ingenuity and determination. Elias looked out at the stars, feeling the pulse of life and possibility within him. The galaxy was vast, full of mysteries, dangers, and wonders beyond imagination, and yet he felt ready. Humanity had always risen to challenges, and now, empowered by immortality and guided by wisdom, he would continue to face whatever the universe threw at him. The universe was far from tame, and countless adventures awaited. But Elias Ward, the human who could not die, had proven that humans were more than survivors. They were thinkers, creators, and problem-solvers. They could overcome, adapt, and leave their mark on the stars. Lysera placed a hand on his shoulder. The galaxy will never forget what you have shown. Immortality is powerful, but humans are extraordinary. Elias nodded. And we will continue to prove it, not through domination or fear, but through courage, creativity, and the determination to survive and protect. As the stars stretched endlessly before him, Elias felt hope and determination. There would be more threats, more challenges, and more mysteries to solve. But he was human, he was immortal, and he would face the future with courage, ingenuity, and the unyielding spirit that had always defined his species. The universe was vast and dangerous, yet filled with opportunity. And Elias Ward, the human who could not die, knew that humans would continue to rise, adapt, and overcome, leaving a legacy that would echo among the stars for generations to come. He turned to the crew, their faces full of trust and determination. "Prepare for the next journey," he said. "The galaxy awaits and humanity will meet it head-on. No matter the odds, we survive, we adapt, we endure. That is what it means to be human." The ship soared into the stars, carrying Elias, Lysera, and the crew toward the unknown. They were explorers, adventurers, and witnesses to wonders beyond imagining. And as they traveled, Elias knew one truth above all. Humans, with their ingenuity, courage, and resilience, were unstoppable. The adventure continued, and humanity's story among the stars was only just beginning.